Paul's final missionary journey. Thanks for joining me. Journey of the church, reading through the book of Acts day by day. Here we are in Acts chapter 20. And after 20 years of missionary work, Paul is coming to a close of his world evangelism. And how does he end his trip? Well, it's all found in Acts chapter 20, beginning in verse number 18. The first thing he does is he tells all of the leaders who had come from Ephesus to meet with him. He said in this leadership meeting, I want you to do 4 things. I want you to be focused on 4 things in your ministry. The very first thing he instructs them to do is to guard their hearts and to guard God's people. Isn't that fascinating? Do you have a garage door that you keep locked? Do you have a back door that you keep locked? Do you close your windows at night and secure them? Paul is saying we must be on guard. Just not our hearts and our minds and our thoughts, but we need to guard the sheep, the flock. And why is that? He's going to explain that in just one moment. But secondly, he says, I want you to feed and shepherd God's flock, which is the church. He purchased the body or the church or God's flock with his own blood, over which the Holy Spirit has appointed you as leaders. Number 1, guard. Number 2, feed. And number 3, those wolves. And that's the reason why you have to guard your heart and your thoughts. Not every thought you have comes from heaven. One time, Jesus rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan." Peter didn't even realize the things that he was saying were being used by the devil himself. We must guard our hearts and our thoughts, and we must guard the people around us. Why? Because there are wolves that will attack us. They are called false teachers. And finally, the instruction is be on guard, because sometimes the wolf is in your own group. It's not just a battle on the outside, but it's a battle on the inside. Here's what Paul wrote. Even some men from your own group will rise up and distort the truth in order to draw a following unto themselves. He says in closing to watch from within as long as you watch without. These 4 statements are worthy of you and I praying and meditating on today. They're applicable for the local church. They're applicable for your family and your friends, to feed them and to guard them. And in closing, Paul lists 10 aspects of his own personal life. It's like a mission statement. It's like a revelation. This is who I am, he is saying. This has been my mission statement, and I've never deviated from what I set off to do. I'll sum up these 10 things by saying that Paul is committed to being focused and strong, and he's committed to being dedicated. Let's look at them quickly. I have done the Lord's work humbly and with many tears. Be ye steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. That's what Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 58. He's challenging the Corinthians in that statement. But here he's saying that's who he is. I've never deviated from the Lord's work. I've endured every trial that's come my way. Number 3, I never shrank back. Number 4, I have always had one message, Christ crucified. Number 5, I don't know what awaits me except the Holy Spirit speaks to my heart. Number 5, I've always been directed by the Holy Spirit. Number 6, I know that none of you to whom I have preached the kingdom will ever see me again. Number 7, I declare today that I have been faithful. Number 8, I have never coveted anyone's silver or gold. I've never worked for pay. Number 9, I have been a constant example of how you can help those in need. Generosity. And finally, number 10, he says in closing, remember what Jesus said. It's more blessed to give than it is to receive. We discover the instructions for the local church and for our families in leadership. And we learn so much about who Paul is after 15, 20 years of faithful missionary work. You be blessed today as you meditate and consider these closing remarks of Paul the Apostle in Acts chapter 20, verse number 18.